Hello, wrestling fans. Blake Smith from Walking the Ropes, and welcome to another episode of Walking the Ropes Wrestling Review for AEW Dynamite from Norfolk, Virginia. But before that, make sure to check out the Walking the Ropes link tree for all things Walking the Ropes. And to open the show, we had Kenny Omega talking about a potential rematch and says he has to change some things, but he can't do that here. Tells Hangman congratulations and then asks the Bucks to hold down the fort until he gets back. Hangman Adam Page is welcomed to the ring by the Dark Order. Cuts off the crowd and says he doesn't deserve it. He effing earned it. And man, did he ever. Says he has a boss to answer to, and that boss is the fans. And if it's okay with them, he plans to celebrate in the ring. Talks about his first challenger and that Bryan Danielson makes his way to the ring. He tells Hangman congratulations and tells him he is excited for this match, but is a bit surprised and disappointed it's not Kenny. Hangman says it's not because he beat Kenny in less than 30 minutes. Bryan says he's about wrestling, and when he won the World Championship at WrestleMania, he wrestled the next night. He actually said WrestleMania, and I was surprised. Hangman says, let's do it right now, and Bryan tells him he would love to, but he doesn't want Hangman to have any excuses when he beats him. They're quickly separated by the Dark Order as they're brawling and yelling at each other. And then we get a singles match between Bryan Danielson and Evil Uno. And Bryan looks to start to get into the head of Hangman by beating down his friends. He dominates Uno to start out, dropping him into the corner and kicking him down. Uno, though, asks for more and then explodes out and starts to roll against Danielson, hitting a neckbreaker. Danielson stops this, though, and hits the running kicks in the corner, followed by a big knee. And then Danielson stomps on Uno and then locks in the triangle choke for the win. Bryan Danielson defeats Evil Uno, and for my Malteser scale, I gave this a 3.25 out of 5. It was a really solid match. I enjoyed it, and I think I'm really enjoying where this story's going. We're gonna get this kind of not necessarily having to run through the Dark Order, but he's gonna pick his matches here. And as you can see, his next one, Danielson says that because of what Hangman says, he is going to run through the Dark Order. Next week, he calls out the Dark Order's Chicago hometown boy, Colt Cabana. MJF talks about how he proved everyone wrong at Full Gear, and he loved every second of it. He says that he doesn't know what is next, but he is better than you, and you have no choice but to admit it. Eddie Kingston goes to talk, but is quickly interrupted by 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. Kingston doesn't really let them talk much and gets in Garcia's face and says he has no respect for him. They quickly leave, and Kingston says he wants to just do one promo without getting interrupted, and he says he's going to catering. We then get a tag team match, The Butcher and the Blade versus Orange Cassidy and Tomohiro Ishii. This is just an insane match. Tomohiro is a scary looking dude, and he quickly beats down the Blade, and then tags in Orange, and he comes in and hits his offense, and then quickly gets laid out by the Butcher. They start to beat on Cassidy in their corner, sending him outside and letting Matt punch him while they distract the ref. And they tag in and out as they beat on Cassidy. Orange, though, is finally able to fight out, and he actually walks his way to the corner. Ishii comes in and clears house. The Butcher and Ishii finally stand off and exchange shots. The Butcher backs Ishii into the corner and chops him, but Ishii just starts to walk into it and backs Butcher into the other corner, and then hits a suplex for a near fall that was broken up by the Blade. Cassidy is then tagged in and then hits the Stun Dog Millionaire for a near fall. Ishii comes in and gets distracted by the bunny and almost gets laid out by the brass knuckles, but Rocky Romero saves him, and then Ishii hits the Brainbuster for the win after Orange Cassidy took out, I believe it was the Butcher and pretty much anybody that was at ringside. I think Matt Hardy was in that as well. But yeah, Tomohiro Ishii and Orange Cassidy defeat the Butcher and the Blade. And for my Malteser scale, I gave this a 3.5 out of 5. It was a really solid match, and they really did pretty much exactly what I thought they would. Ishii just was dominant. We then get Andrade talking about what happened, and he says that he is better than Cody and Pac, and he has to prove it once again. FTR, Malachi, and Andrade challenge Cody, Pac, and the Lucha Brothers to an 8-man tag team match. And then we get Britt Baker talking about beating Ty Conti. And she quickly moves on from this because she says she's annoyed of talking about her own success, I believe. She quickly moves on and says Jamie is also going to become champion when she wins the TBS championship in the tournament, which, I mean, she very well could be. We then get a TBS tournament match, Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida, and Shida and Rose are arguably the longest rivalry in the women's division of AEW, as they've been going head-to-head since pretty much day one. Shida runs at Nyla to start, and quickly gets Nyla to roll outside to get a breather, but Shida follows her, and Nyla takes advantage of this as she starts to beat on Shida in the corner once they came back in the ring. Nyla continues to dominate Shida until they go outside, and then Shida is set up on a chair, but moves as Nyla comes crashing down for a cannonball dive. Shida has to quickly deal with Vicky as Nyla was distracting the ref in the ring. Vicky was going to hit Shida with the kendo stick, but Shida grabbed it and smashed Vicky with it. And as she was coming back in the ring, Nyla takes advantage of the distraction, tosses Shida across the ring from the top rope, and eventually Shida is able to come back as she sends Nyla into the ring, but is taken out from behind by Deeb, who was hiding in the crowd. Nyla looks to end it all as she goes for a beast bomb, but Shida fights out and goes for the Tamashi, but Nyla catches it and locks in a stretch muffler on Shida's injured knee for the win. The knee that Shida's been kind of dealing with since Deeb started all of this. Nyla Rose defeats Hikaru Shida to move on to the next round of the TBS tournament. She'll face either I believe it's Red Velvet or Jade Cargill. I believe that's who Nyla Rose is facing, but I could be wrong. For my Malteser scale, I gave it a 3 out of 5. It was a solid match, and I'm looking forward to seeing who the winner of the tournament is going to be. Malachi Black talks about the nightmare he and his team will put on their opponents and says that his opponents have asked for this. We then get MJF making his way to the ring. He then has Sean Spears talk and tells the fans to shut up. MJF then gets on the mic, and Sean sits behind him and starts to eat a granola bar, and I thought that was just the funniest thing. MJF is just amazing on the mic as he instantly has everyone against him and says no one is on his level. We then get the best in the world, CM Punk, coming to the ring. He stands there, and MJF seems to kind of he thinks he knows what Punk's thinking, so he extends his hand, and Punk laughs and walks out, leaving MJF stunned, basically. It was hilarious. It was great to see MJF get a little bit of what he deserved. Darby talks about his match with MJF, and then says he didn't get broken mentally, and he says he won't be taking any time off. He wants the biggest and the baddest. Billy Gunn walks in, says he's the biggest and the baddest, and tells Darby to name a time and place. Darby accepts. While Billy is a big guy and is, yes, definitely a challenge, in AEW, I don't know if he is the biggest and the baddest. That's all I'm going to say about that. We then get the Super Click talking about what happened at Full Gear and says that was the worst night of their life. The Bucks are not cleared, so on Rampage, it'll be Adam Cole and Bobby Fish versus Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. And Bobby Fish comes in and talks about how it's going to be undisputed, but he's quickly cut off because you can't say that on AEW, man. We then get a tag team match, Lio Rush and Dante Martin versus The Acclaimed. And before The Acclaimed could get into the ring, Lio and Dante quickly hit dives on them and take control in the ring. Dante and Lio double team Bowens, and Caster has to stop their momentum, pulling Dante outside, and The Acclaimed take control from here, tagging in and out as they wear down their opponent. Dante, though, uses his speed to jump over both men and tags in Lio, who takes control, clearing out the ring and then getting a near fall. Lio goes to the top rope for a frog splash, but is stopped, and everyone comes in and lays out everybody. Lio then gets tossed out, and The Acclaimed get a near fall, but Dante makes the save and comes in and hits the double moonsault for the followed by Leo's frog splash for the win. And Dante and Lio pick up the victory over The Acclaimed. For my Malteser scale, I gave this a 3.25 out of 5. It was a solid match, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of what this tag team with Dante and Lio is going to do. After the match, we get Team Taz coming out and reminding Dante of their offer, and they tell him they're going to wait as long as he wants. Jurassic Express and Christian Cage talk about their match on Rampage and say that they are ready and better than ever. The Lucha Brothers talk about FTR and say Pac and Cody and themselves have something special planned for next week. We then get the main event of the night, the TNT Championship match. Sammy Guevara defending against Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal says he is looking to be the first person to come through the doors and get gold on their first match. Sammy, though, is a tough champion and will not let go of that title easily. And Lethal, though, takes control as he beats down on the injured ribs of Sammy. And Lethal sets up for a dive, but Sammy hits a huge knee and goes for a shooting star press. But Lethal gets the knees up, and they spill to the outside. Tonk Sampson checks on Sammy and seems to tell him to stop, but Sammy pushes him off and gets in the ring and flips off Lethal, and Jay immediately comes at him and targets the ribs. Sammy hits a Spanish fly and goes for a dive, but Lethal stops him and sends him out and goes for one of his own, but Sammy catches him and hits a suplex on the outside and then sets him up on the timekeeper's table and goes for a senton, but Jay moves. Sammy crashes into the table. Lethal tosses him back into the ring and sets up for the elbow drop, but Sammy stops him. Sammy and Jay then continue to go back and forth, and Sammy fights to the ropes to break a figure four, and he just kind of keeps going for the GTH after that, and his ribs won't let him. He hits multiple flying knees and then finally is able to get Lethal up on his shoulders to hit the GTH for the win. Sammy Guevara defeats Jay Lethal. And for my Malteser scale, I gave this a 4 out of 5. It was a solid match, a great defense, and I think Sammy's been an amazing TNT champion. Actually, all the TNT champions have been amazing, and that legacy has become a very good one for AEW for sure. After the match, Sammy celebrates with the Inner Circle and shakes hands with Jay. For my overall for the show, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. It was a solid show, and I mean, a great kind of cool off, basically, from Full Gear. It was really good. My match of the night goes to Sammy versus Lethal. They did awesome, and I implore you to go watch that match. My segment of the night is MJF and CM Punk coming face to face. They did... That whole segment was just perfect. It didn't need to be anything long. It didn't need to be anything crazy. It was exactly what it needed to be. And my performers of the night are Sammy Guevara and Jay Lethal because they gave us one hell of a main event. And that is all for this episode of Walking the Ropes. Thank you all for dropping in. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notifications whenever we upload a video. And I'll see you in the next one.